What would you do if your world has been overtaken by crazy shadow monsters? Also, there's a small piece of a crazy shadow monster stuck in your body, but when you try to get away, you get kidnapped by crazy scientists who want to use you for experiments until you lose your mind and turn into a full monster yourself. Today I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the shadow monsters in Kagewani Shou. Now before we get into it, you're gonna need a recap of season 1. So, we got this genetic researcher named Banba who had been searching weird shadow monsters that can infect anything they come in contact with. He travels to different locations where they've seen these things before, and he does it all for the sake of his research until he was lured in by a psycho entrepreneur named Kimura. Because Kimura wanted the powers of the shadow monsters for himself, he had been experimenting on them, but just like you'd expect, things did not turn out as planned because things went wrong while they were in the lab, and Kimura abandoned poor Banba to the mercy of the shadow monsters. But Banba survived because he had a piece of the shadow monsters in him, and because of that they didn't kill him. And we thought he'd kill Kimura before running away and go into hiding, but that's where things get really interesting at the start of season 2. These two pilots have no idea they're about to lose their lives. They're flying their plane through turbulence, but everything's about to change. Meanwhile, this is about to hit the story of his life. His name is Kawasaki, and instead of chasing the story of an idol caught cheating, he's been writing about the strange monsters that escaped from Kimura's lab when Dr. Banba disappeared. That's when he hears about another monster-related story that happened on a plane. This young lady was a member of the cabin crew, and she just saw all the passengers on her plane get eaten, including these two unfortunate pilots who successfully landed the plane. There was turbulence on the plane, and it was also raining. But when the young lady looked out the window, she saw the silhouette of a shadow monster. But because it was time to land, she had to go to her seat as the seatbelt sign came on. And just then, this random dude decided that he had to go use the restroom. This meant she had to go and fetch him. But when she got to the restroom, there was a shadow monster there eating up the man. But because she screamed, her crewmates came to see what was going on, and of course the monster pounced. But being a sly little girl, she snuck away and hid in a closet while everyone was being eaten. Alright guys, so this one is really easy. I'm gonna do exactly what the crew did. Hide myself until later. Problem solved. Let me explain. You know the pilots only lost their lives because they disregarded the safety protocols given to them? Yeah, they successfully landed the plane, and then they noticed that the cabin crew didn't make any announcements that they had landed safely. If I were in their shoes, I'm not gonna open the cockpit to check what's going on. No! There's a reason the cockpit is separate from the rest of the plane. Instead, I'm gonna use internal communication lines within the plane to reach out to cabin crew and say, what the frick is going on? We hear noises. Look right here. If they've been working together for up to a whole week, they most likely have some sort of personal info. I'm honestly gonna privately chat with all of them. If they don't pick up, I'm gonna go,
Mayday, we have problems.
Until the control tower gets experts down to the outside of the plane, I'm not opening the plane doors for nobody. So once the experts get down around the plane, I'm gonna open it up, tell them to check what's going on, and of course, I'm only gonna get out of the plane until they've certified that it's safe for me and my co-pilot to leave the cockpit. So Kawasaki inspects the plane after listening to the young lady's story, and that's when he finds a pile of human bones left behind the strange monster. As soon as Kawasaki turned around after seeing the pile of bones, his heart stops because right there staring at him with spider legs hanging from the plane roof was the monster, and in a split second, poor Kawasaki becomes a pile of bones too. Meanwhile, Dr. Banba has been captured by these law enforcement dudes, and they decide to transfer him by train in the middle of rain. And just like the plane, a monster crawls out of the sea and blocks the train tracks. Then it shoots an acid-like substance at the train and melts it. Banba feels the presence of the monster, and although the cop in charge of him basically is a piece of crap, he warns him that something dangerous is on the train. They finally notice that Banba was right, and there was a monster on the train, but the detective dickhead over here still thinks Banba is too much of a threat to allow him to deal with the monster, but Banba reminds him that there are innocent civilians on board, and for a moment he pretends to have some common sense. So they head down to the engine room with the train officer in front of them, but when they get there, Banba decides to act as a diversion while the train officer stops the train. Unfortunately, the monster ignores his diversion and attacks the poor officer and pours acid on him. Banba's wound starts aching, so he takes a moment to control himself, and there he instructs Detective Dickhead over here to disconnect the rest of the train from the engine. However, the detective notices that the connecting rod is a little too tight, so he does what we expect him to do from the beginning and finally uses his brain. He decides to use the monster's acid to disconnect the train, but the monster ignores him and goes for Banba this time. To get its attention back, he shoots at the monster and responds with a shot of acid, just enough to melt the rod. The detective risks his life and saves Banba by pulling him from the train, and it falls back into the sea together with the train's engine. After the train finally stops, stops, Bamba thanks the detective, and their mushy moment is interrupted by these crazy-looking military guys. They grab Bamba and stuff him in their helicopter and fly away. In a nearby town, this rizzed-up dude named Tatsuya takes his girlfriend to the hot springs for a warm bath, and all's going well until he realizes he hasn't heard from her in a while, and Tatsuya heads back to the reception desks and asks them if they've seen his girlfriend. But their answer leaves him speechless. They say that he came to the hot springs alone, and even go as far as showing him his name on the register. And it is written in his handwriting, and yeah, his girlfriend's name isn't on it. Now Tatsuya knows something is up, so he decides to investigate for himself. That's when he runs into this weird cult group of people preparing for a sacrifice, and as they chant their strange song, one of the shadow monsters comes out of the river and gets ready to eat their sacrifice. One look at the back of the figure they want to sacrifice, and Tatsuya knows it's his girlfriend, so he does what every reasonable boyfriend would do. He starts screaming and tries to attack, but instead the cult members just grab him with ease and proceed with their ceremony. And just when girlfriend Xuan is about to get eaten, some rando dude shows up with a metal toy, and as soon as the monster hears the echo from the toy, it screams in pain. And in that one moment, when it's distracted, our boy acts. He grabs his babe and jumps into a strange pulley that is going up the river. The creature recovers from the sound and attacks its followers. But Tatsuya and his babe have escaped, thank God. They find a cab and head back towards the city. But then this rude driver who can't mind his own dang business tells Tatsuya that he smells like poop and advises him to visit a hot spring. Tatsuya says he came from one, but when he tells the cab driver the name of the spring, that man says it's impossible because that place closed down a long time ago. Okay, so everyone escaped with their lives, so all is well, right? Well, wrong. They would have been in trouble if the person with that metal toy thing, whatever it is, shows up. They're screwed, because first of all, these guys here, they need to get Tatsuya into like an boys only group and give him a good drilling. Everyone knows that you don't take a girl out to a place you've never been to before. Don't do that. And even if you have to go somewhere new, even rookies know that you start by researching where you're going. He would have never gotten into this cult mess in the first place. Do a little Google, but that's not all. When he finds his girlfriend, he could have handled things better. As soon as I found the room where the noise is coming from, I'm gonna get some stones, I'm gonna arm up, I'm gonna like be ready to throw down, because you know, you can only throw so many fists before you break your knuckles, and unless you know how to punch perfectly every time, you might hurt some fingers. Just saying. And when I go inside and I see what's going on, I'm gonna throw rocks in different directions to create distractions. So they're like, what's going on? What's going over here? What's going on over here? Once they're confused, I'm gonna sneak in and wade through and grab my babe. We're safe, and let's get the heck out of Dodge. Of course, if all else fails, I could trust my good old taijutsu to get the job done. Cause you know, look, Rock Lee has nothing on a guy whose girl has been kidnapped. The more I think about the situation this girl is in, the more I'm gonna use that as fuel to remove the limiters my body has, because this is a life or death situation. The limits that I normally have on my body subconsciously are going to be lifted. I'll be ready to throw down and kick some ass, and we get out of there in one piece. So Dr. Bamba's helicopter finally lands, and he's given a change of clothes before being sent to the man that ordered his kidnapping. He opens the door and realizes that he is face to face with, drum roll please, Kimura. Yes, his fated enemy has returned, because as it turns out, Bamba did not kill him like we thought. Well, that's just because Bamba left him alive, and he had the chance to use science to save himself, but now he uses a walking stick for support, and he thanks Bamba for saving his life and sends him on a mission. It turns out Kimura is every bit the piece of shit we thought he was. Despite how things went out of control at the end of the first season, he is still carrying on crazy experiments on the shadow monsters. Now, one of his research labs has been affected by his experiments, but the lab technicians are still inside. He asks Bamba to help him save them, but he informs him that he has to do it before nightfall because the creatures become too dangerous at night. Bamba uses his tracking device to locate the remaining lab technician, and that's the easy part. When he tried to leave with the lab scientists, the creatures show up and halt them in their tracks. But then Bamba shows us why he's a researcher, because he got all the information he could about the monsters in a few seconds, and decided on how to attack by using their weakness, light. After turning on the light, Bamba helps the scientists climb up to the roof, but the creatures recover quickly from the light and get ready to attack again. But this time Bamba decides that he's had enough fooling around. He pulls out some Avatar level shadow bending type stuff and brings out some shadow monsters from his hands. Then he controls them to eat up the monsters attacking him, and just when it looks like he's won, we see the same legs that saved Tatsuya and his babe. It's a girl, and she has a vendetta against Bamba because as soon as she sees him and his shadow monster, she attacks them immediately, and one strike from her weird metal thingy and Bomba's monsters disappear. The sound even makes Bomba collapse, but she's just getting started. She stabs Bomba in his shoulder with a weird weapon that makes his curse mark disappear. Now the alpha of the monsters finally shows up, but she treats it like a little tiny kid and kills it in one hit before facing Bomba again, but this time she's ready to deal with him. Meanwhile, the researcher has gotten back to Kimura safely, and he informs Kimura that the monsters Bomba saved him from were genetically engineered by some guy called Honma, Kimura's replacement at the research facility, a man that is obsessed with using the shadow monsters as biological weapons. Now back on the roof, the weird girl is about to kiss Bomba a permanent goodbye, but then this old lady shows up to protect him. Yeah, you remember her from season 1, right? She tries to defend Bomba, but when she sees the weird markings on the girl's knife, she thinks twice, because she recognizes it. The girl says she no longer identifies with the clan, but she's still going to kick the old woman's ass all the same. They spar for a bit, but like you expect, old age catches up with Bomba's defender, and she gets stabbed in the leg. Meanwhile, Bomba is stuck in the ground thinking about his life, wondering if his savior is about to die. Okay, yeah, look, I feel bad for Bomba, but honestly, this situation is his fault. He got stuck in this mess because he took a job he wasn't supposed to take. Like, we all know Kimura, we know the history he's got with this guy, they don't like each other. Yeah, we all know about that in season 1. Now, with that in mind, there's absolutely no reason why he should stick out his neck in the first place. Like, why? Yeah, you find out Kimura is alive is enough of a shocker to make me go, stay the frick away from me. The bottom line is, I'm not gonna take a job from Kimura, and if I don't take the job, I'm not in this situation. But let's say that I do out of the benevolence of my heart. I still wouldn't be here. Bomba is suffering from what I call, let's stick around and find out syndrome. It's a horrible situation where you stick around and find out what you're not meant to. Remember how his mission was to save the research scientists? Well, he already did that, and then he got curious, and curiosity kills the cat. So maybe just do your job and then leave. Don't just stick around. You don't stick around, you don't see the chick. If you don't see the chick, she doesn't kill you. She doesn't poke you with the weird tube thing. And let's not forget, Bomba's life is on the line here. If I were in his shoes, my adrenaline's gonna be kicking really good. So much so that while she's distracted from fighting the old lady, I'm gonna say, thanks, Grandma, and leave. Or, if I want to be really sneaky, I would have brought out one of my shadows at that point and cut her hand with it. Call it cheap, sure, but it keeps me alive, and maybe the grandma lives too. So now I have a friend. And that's more than we can say for Bomba, because the girl finally decides that she is ready to kill him. She ignores the old lady, but as she raises her spear to stab him, the old lady jumps in between them and gets run through by the weird staff thing. Before kicking the bucket, the old lady gives the young girl her knife and tells her to correct the mistake that the old lady's clan made. You know, old lady's dying wish and all that jazz. But yeah, the girl totally ignores her and goes after Bomba. Luckily for our doctor, the rescue team has returned, and they use a smoke screen to hide their soldiers before retrieving Bomba. The helicopter flies away before the girl can make sense of what's going on. After rescuing Bomba, Kimura's research team carries out some experiments on him while watching him heal. Kimura goes to confront his superior, the guy named Honma, but Honma tells him to focus on finding out who the strange girl was, instead of coming after him. Meanwhile, Honma is also searching for different shadow monsters. He gets a notification that one of the monsters had been sighted at a shopping facility. This guy's also from the research facility, and he's out for a fun day with his blind daughter Rio. But as soon as he gets her something to eat, the monster shows up inside the shop. He recognizes it and hides just in time to avoid getting frozen by its powers. Now these two Gen Z kids though aren't so lucky. Maybe next time they'll learn to run first and video later, because they get frozen by the creature and then of course eaten. But then suddenly the emergency shutters activate and Rio is trapped with the monster. Her father gets a call from Honma, but all Bossman wants to confirm is if the monster is the one he's been searching for. Rio's father confirms that it is, and that's when Honma tells him to stay put because help is on the way. But in reality, Honma has no plan on saving poor innocent Rio-chan, but instead he instructs his strike team to make sure they capture the creature alive and ignore any human collateral damage. Luckily for Rio though, Kimura calls her father and tells him of Rio's plan, and he then directs Rio's father through the air vents back into the shop where Rio is alone with the monster. And just as the monster is about to kill her, her father shows up to shoot the monster till it dies, and he takes his daughter and runs away. Miles away from civilization, we run into Plant Boy again. Now he's not sure if he's killed his friends or if they all died on their own. Because he's unsure, he runs away from civilization to live on his own. Well, until this lady shows up. She asks him if she can stay in his place till the blizzard passes, because she claims she got lost in a blizzard. And at first he's like, nah, but then he's like, okay, sure. He gives her some tea for the cold, and to show her thanks, she gives him some chocolate as her appreciation for saving her life. As soon as he eats the chocolate, he passes out. This two-timing, conniving, sly lady calls her lab people to come pick him up. Turns out she was not lost, she was just there for another research specimen. The team tell her they're 20 minutes out, so she has to wait for them to come get her. That would have been easy to do if it were not for this giant, scary-looking monster that shows up. The team tell her that she'll have to hold off the monster till they arrive. And all she's got is this puny knife that belongs to the plant kid. And she proves that she's not a total lame-o. She hides the kid first, and then pathetically points the knife at the door. The creature breaks into the house, and after playing a bit of tag with her, it finally gets ready to eat her, but as she closes her eyes for the sweet embrace of death, she hears a funny sound. Plant Boy is wrestling with the monster on her behalf. He thanks her for the chocolate and lets her know that she's a bad double agent because he knew all along. He explains that sleeping drugs don't work on him, but then he tells her to leave the building, and she runs out like your average double agent damsel in distress and screams at him to come out before the building collapses. But our boy's determined to die human, so he holds the creature and lets the fire consume them both before the building collapses. When Kimura and his agents finally show up, the fire is out and only ashes are left. Okay, yes, I think we need to thank little Captain Nerdy Planet Boy over here for saving the double agents behind. Yes, thank you for doing a good deed. But if he hadn't decided to do that, he would have lived. Yeah, I know you're a double agent, but I'm gonna save you anyways because you were kind of nice to me in this weird random moment of chaos. Really? Her first mistake was coming to capture a creature with next to no info on its powers and abilities. Everybody knows the first step of a hunt is to study your prey, at least know what you're hunting, because if she had, she probably would have known that, sedatives don't seem to work on the Plant Boy. Maybe we should try something else? Like his file probably has something crazy like, he killed his peers in a garden, so maybe that would be a good place to start. If he uses plants there, then it's likely that he has some benefits from the feature of each plant. I'm not gonna leave no stone left unturned. Now, as for her second mistake, look here, I think we can blame this one on Kimura. It's a very bad idea for one person to face a monster with your extraction team so far away, with no form of self-defense. Our guy killed his classmate before he left civilization. Why did she think he would be so kind in the first place? No, at the very least, carry like a revolver. Like, I need enough insurance to protect myself and prepare for an emergency. So yeah, if the extraction team is far away and I don't have a personal weapon, nothing is going to make me stay alone with this monster of a kid. I'm just gonna wait till you get here, and then we can, tag team it together. Although Dr. Bamba is still recovering, his mind is very active. He recalls a memory that's not his own, a memory that belongs to the Kagewani inside him. He sees some men tie up a man because his ancestors created the Kagewani. The man tries to explain to them that no one can tame the Kagewani or control it because it will continue to feed and evolve, and instead of listening, they feed him to the Kagewani trapped inside a well. But the monster doesn't fully accept their sacrifice, and instead it comes out and eats them too. In a nearby village, they see smoke and know it is the Kagewani's work. As they get ready to go and attack it, they all have weapons similar to the one that weird girl that nearly killed Bamba had. A woman talks to her daughter and gives her the same strange echo toy the weird girl used to defeat Bamba. The woman tells her daughter that the toy is a gift from her father that will protect her from the Kagewani. She teaches her daughter how to use it by striking it against a surface when the Kagewani is close by. Meanwhile, the Kagewani makes a full feast of all the people in the village before finally coming for the mother and daughter. The mother makes a brave last stand against the Kagewani by standing like a statue in Rio de Janeiro, but it doesn't make much difference because one, the Kagewani doesn't care about her and also doesn't care about Brazil, dang it. However, after seeing her mother get eaten, the poor girl gets ready for her own death, but as the creature gets close, she takes her mother's advice and strikes the metal toy on the wood near her. In a split second, the Kagewani bursts into small specks of dust and retreats from her back into the faraway well it came from, and Bamba calls the toy a tuning fork. Okay, so these are the things I hate to see it in anime. If I were in this girl's family, no one would have died. Hear me out, the father's a genius, right? He created the tuning fork thing and then they just disappear. Yeah, he's a genius. He and every other person in the village, especially his wife, is pretty dumb. Harsh, but look right here. If he is so smart to create a weapon that could literally make the Kagewani go away right here, check it out. See, look, it's gone, it goes away. Why didn't he create this one from the beginning? And when he finally decided to create it, why did he create only one? And hand it to his daughter and be like, this will save humanity, and there's only one. Whoops. Like, she's barely 10 years old. Sure, I get that we all want to keep our kids safe, but like, really? Wouldn't it be safer to like maybe mass produce this thing? Just saying, if you have more than one, you can better protect yourself because that way the people who are actually going to do the fighting have enough weapons to protect themselves. And if things go south, why give the weapon to a child who can't really think for themselves? I'm going to carry my baby girl on my back and I'm going to hold the tuning fork in my hands because now that she's given the fork to the girl and gone to kick her own bucket, like my baby girl is going to be going alone in the dark in this like terrifying Kagewani filled world. Because look, once the husband explained how it works, go to the speaker, put the mic to the tuning fork and slap the tuning fork. Boom! Massive sound bomb wave thing is gonna blast its way through the entire town and the Kagewani will die in mass. Look at that! Problem solved! Dr. Bamba opens his eyes because he's being rushed into some weird lab, and when he gets there, Honma and some lab guys are waiting for him. The lab guys stick some extraction pins on him while Honma tells him this shady online audience about the biological weapon they're about to buy. He delivers a crazy pitch on how potent the Kagewani is, but while he's delivering his pitch, the scientist Bamba rescued at the risk of his own life finally realizes something. The monster that tried to eat him were his own fellow lab scientists. Hanma had turned them from scientists into lab rats. When he's done with his sales pitch, all the black market buyers place their orders for his product. His scientists use the extraction pins to suck out Kagewani juice from Bamba till he almost passes out. But the scientist that Hanma has offended has other ideas. One of them goes to rescue Bamba while Ryo-chan's father shoots the containment glass that was protecting Hanma from the liquid. When Hanma tries to abandon his men and run away, Ryo's dad closes the door against him. And then Kimura shows up and he tells Hanma to enjoy life as a monster because he has lost. Then Kimura takes command of the facility and instructs everyone to work on decontaminating the area. He then pretends like Bamba has escaped and he's going to look for him. But in truth, Bamba is waiting for him inside of his plane. Together with the researcher, they head out on another mission because Bamba claims he knows where the original Kagewani is. Dr. Bamba tells Kimura about his strange dream of another man's memories. They share their thoughts on the strange girl and her tuning fork, and he knows all about the frequency that affects the Kagewani, but no one knows why it affects the monster. Meanwhile, our girl shows up at this creepy looking place and sees only a girl sitting in front of a house that has obviously been torn apart by the Kagewani. Not spooky and not weird at all. She warns the girl to leave so she doesn't get attacked by the Kagewani when it returns, but instead the girl follows her. They head to a small room and she goes to sleep, but when she wakes up from a bad dream, she realizes her tuning fork is gone and the girl is holding it. When she tells the girl to give it back, the young girl's eyes start shaking and then turn black. And suddenly the girl changes into a spider-like monster and attacks our poor girl. Yeah, I could have seen that one coming. Anyway, because the creature uses sound to track her, she throws random stones to create a distraction. And then she uses the opportunity to slice off the creature's hand and takes back her tuning fork. One strike from the tuning fork and the creature can't move. It tries to emotionally blackmail her a bit by changing back into the face of the young girl, but after a moment's hesitation, she kills off the creature and walks away. But as she leaves, a dead soldier's transponder comes on and she hears where Bamba is. As soon as Bamba and Kimura enter the village, Bamba warns that the place is dangerous because he can sense the Kagewani everywhere. And just when Bamba spots the same well from his memories where the Kagewani was kept, our female hunter girl shows up again. But this time she's curious because she heard Bamba talking about killing the Kagewani and she wants to play with Bamba first and kill him before hunting the Kagewani. But Kimura informs them that there's not going to be any time for that because they are all surrounded by the Kagewani. He lights a lamp to show them the many shadows that have gathered around them. The monsters attack, but the hunter girl uses her tuning fork and they all freeze in one spot. Then she warns Bamba and Kimura not to interfere because she wants to kill the monsters herself. And after doing some weird blood demon art like an upper rank demon, she attacks the monsters and slashes them until they get so afraid they all run away from her. Yeah, she's pretty cool actually. But as the monsters retreat, they all group into one giant monster and come back to attack. The monster is a lot faster than other shadows, and that's not the worst part. The girl's tuning fork doesn't work against a giant shadow monster. Yeah, stuff just got real. The monster slashes her over and over and over again until all she can do is defend herself and hold on for dear life. Bamba comes close to her and explains why the tuning fork isn't working anymore. The monster is still evolving. Alright, look, I think it's crazy that the monster can still evolve beyond how bad it is already, but like if I were them, it would already be dead. Bamba and Hunter Girl missed the perfect opportunity. They had it right there. They could have taken out the monster. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So the minute I hear that Bamba is hunting the Kagewani, we are now friends for now. Even if it's a temporary thing just to kill this thing, alright? Because look here, see how well this Hunter Girl is doing? She's kicking its ass. Now imagine what could happen if 2 Hunter Girls did this. Better still, imagine what a Hunter Girl, a Bamba, would be able to achieve if they worked together. Like if Bamba faces one section of the monster and she faces the opposite section, they would have cleared the monsters out in no time. And if any monster tries to run away, she can always hit it with the tuning fork to keep it in place, and then they can swiftly finish it off. But what about Bamba? Well, I'm glad you asked. If they're working together, and if she uses her tuning fork, it would affect Bamba and his Kagewani, right? Wrong. You see, look, remember, Bamba is not a full Kagewani, so there are some exceptions that come from this situation, and one of those exceptions, it's a wonderful thing called earplugs. And you're probably gonna be fine. He would not be able to hear the frequency coming from the tuning fork, and this means his shadow monster would not be able to hear it because it's connected to him. Pretty smart, right? So with some great headphones in place, like our boy would be able to fight back in full strength, and she could just slam her tuning fork away, no problem. Hunter Girl isn't looking that tough or as sharp as before, and some mini Kagewani attack her and tear off some more of her skin. The monster even bites his sword and breaks it. Her end is finally come, and so she closes her eyes and waits for the final bite, but that's when our boy Bamba shows up with his shadow monster, and his Kagewani starts a furious eating campaign, and its meal is the larger Kagewani monster. He bends the shadow like the last airbender, and then the shadow starts attacking his monster, thereby making him bleed too. But because Bamba wants to push out more power, he lets go of some more of his humanity and changes a little to look like the Kagewani. But Kimura realizes that the reason Bamba can't beat the monster is because he is using his own monster to protect our little damsel in distress. The hunter girl takes a moment to remember what the dying grandma told her after their fight, because she remembers what is at stake, and she drops the whole damsel in distress thing and gets ready for round 2. She tells Bamba to focus on attacking while she would focus on defending them from the Kagewani's attack. They tear the monster down to its final bits, but just when they're getting ready to kill it, a sedative hits Hunter Girl and she passes out on the ground. And Kimura reveals that he never planned to let them kill the Kagewani. The two-timing conniving piece of poop had ulterior motives all along. He talks about how he and Bamba are the chosen ones. He opens his shirt and shows Bamba a weird device implanted in his body, and he says it has the same frequency as the girl's tuning fork. And with that, he would trap the Kagewani inside him and use the frequency to control the monster forever. Therefore, he turns on his machine and starts absorbing the creature into himself. Kimura asks Bamba to join him on his new mission for humanity, but Bamba refuses. So Kimura decides to show off his new power. As soon as he stretches out his hand, Bamba can move again. Kimura decides that since Bamba won't join him, it's too risky to let him live, so he starts siphoning all of Bamba's Kagewani powers. But Hunter Girl decides to help Bamba by using Grand's knife. She aims it perfectly at Kimura and throws it. But like a dude with eyes behind his back, he catches her knife and breaks it while calling it a pathetic attempt at destroying him. Now things are really over for Bamba and Hunter Girl. But as they prepare for their inevitable end, Kimura feels a sharp sting in his chest, and he looks down and sees that there's something piercing through him. He turns around and finds himself face to face with a mutated Honma. Yeah, these tough guys really don't know how to stay dead. Kimura's metal patch breaks. Kimura's body starts changing the way Bamba's body changes when he is controlling the Kagewani. Kimura uses his shadow to lift a Honma up and tear him into pieces, but then because of the stab wound that tore through his precious device, the Kagewani's body goes out of control, and he realizes that he was never really chosen for anything, but that didn't stop him from making a noble sacrifice. He asks Bamba to kill him and the Kagewani together, and this time Bamba doesn't waste any time. He clips his former friend and the monster, and we can all say goodbye to that terrible creation of a man and goodbye to this very twisted idea of an anime. Until next time guys, like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget, stay away from shadows.